So get this, Amazon just found a North Korean operative working deep inside one of its most secure divisions. And this wasn't just some random employee. He was a star, the perfect worker. But his real boss? The Kim regime. Okay, let's get into this absolutely wild story of digital espionage.
Just let that sink in for a second. This guy had the perfect American act down pat. The accent, the resume, the bank account, the whole shebang. He was a ghost, an imposter hiding in plain sight. And you know what? He almost got away with it.
Right, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How does an agent from North Korea, one of the most sealed-off countries on Earth, manage to sneak into one of the biggest, most powerful tech companies in the world? Well, it turns out it involves a surprisingly sophisticated and widespread operation.
Let's start with just how big this problem really is. Because the thing is, this Amazon case, it wasn't some isolated incident. It was just the one that finally got caught.
Think about that number. Nearly 2,000 attempts at one company in just 1 year. And we're not talking about clumsy efforts here. These are highly skilled operatives trying to worm their way into major U.S. corporations. For companies that aren't actively hunting for them, well, they're practically invisible.
So how in the world do they pull it off? It's not as simple as just faking a resume. Not by a long shot. There's a methodical playbook at work, and it all hinges on recruiting unsuspecting Americans to act as their home base.
And this role right here is the absolute key. They call them laptop farmers. They find an American, like this woman, Christina Chapman, and they offer them thousands of dollars a month just to host and run some laptops in their house. These laptops are then controlled remotely from North Korea, making it look like all their digital activity is coming from right inside the US. Chapman basically became a North Korean asset, whether she knew the full story or not.
So the whole scheme really boils down to a pretty simple three-step process. First, you get your American laptop farmer to set up shop inside the US. Second, you use that base to get your hands on a stolen American identity. And finally, you use that brand new fake identity to apply for and land a high-paying remote tech job. Simple as that.
But you might be wondering, why would any American get involved in this? Well, the answer is pretty simple: money. For someone like Christina Chapman, this scheme totally transformed her life. She went from a lifetime of low-paying jobs to suddenly earning up to $11,000 a month just for letting some laptops run. For a lot of people, that's an offer that's just too good to pass up.
Okay, so once they have their base in the US, the next step is to create that fake American. They can literally just buy complete identities on the dark web. We're talking names, social security numbers, work histories, everything. Or they can recruit what are called mules, real Americans who are willing to rent out their own identities and bank accounts for a piece of the action.
And this is where it gets really, really slick. The final piece of the puzzle is AI. Artificial intelligence can generate a perfectly believable headshot for an ID check, it can write a flawless resume for a software engineer, and it can even build out a LinkedIn profile that looks totally legitimate. The disguise is complete, and it's virtually undetectable.
All right, so now we've seen how they do it, but let's talk about the why. Because this isn't just about a few people earning a salary, oh no. This is a state-sponsored mission to rake in massive amounts of cash and steal very valuable information.
This number is just staggering. Investigators figure that Christina Chapman's little laptop farm, with its 68 fake identities, generated over $17 million for the North Korean regime. And that's from infiltrating 309 different US companies. Just incredible.
And remember, she was just one cog in this massive machine. The UN estimates that at any given moment, there are about 4,000 of these North Korean IT operatives working remotely spread out across hundreds and hundreds of US firms. And the top performers? The ones who can juggle multiple remote jobs at the same time? They are absolute cash cows. A single top-tier imposter can funnel as much as $800,000 a year back to Pyongyang. So, at the end of the day, the mission has two crystal-clear objectives. First, it's about cash, hard currency to fund North Korea's sanctioned weapons programs. And second, it's espionage. Once they're inside a company's network, they can quietly hoover up sensitive data and hand it right over to state-sponsored hackers.
As you can imagine, this massive operation has forced American companies and government agencies into a whole new kind of arms race. They are scrambling to build a sort of digital fortress to keep these highly sophisticated imposters out.
And this just shows you how incredibly hard they are to catch. The Amazon spy wasn't caught because of a bad resume or a failed background check. Nope. He got flagged because of a tiny, microscopic lag in his keystrokes when he was connecting to headquarters.
a delay of just a few milliseconds that suggested he was on the other side of the planet.
And I mean, check out the audacity here. One of these operatives managed to get a job at KnowBe4, an IT security firm. He passed 4 separate video interviews, background checks, reference checks, the works. He was only caught because the company laptop they sent him immediately lit up with malware. They can fool even the experts.
And here's the real kicker. The problem is only getting worse because the opportunity is just exploding. The huge shift to remote work since the pandemic has created the absolute perfect environment for these operations to thrive. The number of remote jobs has nearly quadrupled, opening thousands of new doors for these infiltrators to just walk right through.
So, how are companies fighting back? Well, it's all about layers of defense. They're starting to use behavioral monitoring to watch how employees work, not just who they say they are. They're adopting zero trust policies, which basically means no one is trusted by default. And of course, they're constantly trying to beef up identity verification. It's a nonstop battle of adaptation.
Ultimately, this whole thing brings us to a pretty chilling final thought. Amazon caught their spy because of a delay of a few milliseconds. They got lucky. But thousands of these operatives are still out there, getting smarter, refining their techniques, and hiding inside our most critical institutions. So the real question is, as this threat keeps evolving, will everyone else be so lucky?